Hey there, and welcome to another segment of Coffee Talk. Joining us today is one of CrowdStrike's lead architects, Cameron Buriani. For those who don't know, CrowdStrike is a leader in cloud-delivered protection of endpoints, cloud workloads, identity, and data. Welcome, Cameron.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. Yeah, let's dive into it. Hopefully, it'll bring some value, and let's go into the topics.
Cameron, let's talk about the threat landscape here and how accounting firms are being targeted. What are the current threats out there? It's the adversaries, big game hunting, flocking, et cetera. What are you seeing in the trenches on the day to day?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So, insofar as what we're seeing on a day to day when it comes to accounting firms and financials, it's one of the top targeted sectors right now. We're seeing primarily big game hunting and a lot of portfolio building with that. We're seeing adversarial actions typically manifesting from places and generally going to be from adversarial countries. What's happening now is there's an increase in geopolitical tensions, and we're starting to look for financing vectors. And of course, financial firms are going to be targeted on that. One of the primary things we're seeing is they're actually building up these portfolios. So it's a distribution of risk that we're seeing. So instead of, if you're a small firm, like, my accountant, he's in a smaller firm. So they may be thinking, well, we're 4 or 5, 6 person shop. Why would we be targeted? What's happening is we're actually seeing this almost like a supply chain. You have these rank and file script kiddies, if you will, that are building in persistent methods, getting into those smaller firms, building up portfolios of maybe a couple hundred of them. And then they'll go sell off those portfolios to larger monetization actors, which will then bulk kind of monetize on that. So we're seeing that trend definitely increase, especially with some of the financial constraints, macroeconomic headwinds. And of course, you see the increase in geopolitical tension where you may need to start to fundraise outside of traditional methodologies. So as always, financial firms have been targeted, but now even more so. And it's no longer just hiding in the shadows simply because of your size, because that big game hunting and that portfolio building is causing even the mom and pop shops to get targeted by, again, those script kiddies who are building up those entire portfolios and then moving them on through the chain.
But why accounting firms? Why CPA firms? What makes them so special that we're seeing this increase in attack? I mean, we've seen it also where it seems they're strategizing their methods to crack the door open just a little bit to get access to that portfolio. But I mean, I think I understand, but what do you think as far as why accounting firms are such a target?
Sensitive PII data, obviously social security numbers, things like that. Think about everything you give your accountant. You give your accountant all relevant data associated with your financial life. So if you, as an external adversary, wanted to take malicious financial gains, why would you not target the contact which has all relevant data associated with your financial life? It's the most bang for your buck if you're going to take that malicious action. Those CPAs and those accounting firms, I mean, from individuals to working with larger organizations, those accounting firms are going to have that relevant data that they'll need in order to then potentially sell it off, or again, maybe doing ransomware lockups or, various other monetization effects. At the end of the day, it boils down to the fact that accounting firms have some of the most sensitive financial data for individuals as well as companies, and adversaries know that, and they know where to get it.
Makes a lot of sense, and including other industries like legal firms and medical practices. They have some of the most important data stored on their systems, and also these are professional organizations that may have the insurance policies or the money to pay the ransom. Versus small mom shops that are selling on Main Street, they maybe not have the sensitive data. They're not going to pay the ransom, but accounting firms, they're very sensitive to that data getting out. It destroys their reputation, et cetera.
Yeah. And, there used to be a bit of an honor among thieves code where you wouldn't really attack things like, hospitals and infrastructure associated with maybe even academia, but that's since gone to the wayside. So again, there may be a little bit of a perception that accounting firms, well, you're not targeting the hospital, right? We're going to an accounting firm and we'll get the payout from the insurance methodology. So there's a lot of layers within this, but it's always historically been seen as quite a lucrative vertical for a variety of reasons.
What are some of the methods you're seeing? I mean, it's obviously been evolving. This isn't a new problem, but it's definitely accelerated quite a bit in the last 2 years, and the methods are evolving. But what are some of the scarier tactics you've seen, and how complex it can be about trying to get in and crack the door open into an accounting firm?
Yeah. Well, one of them really is social engineering, right? I mean, with tax season and the constraint deadlines, people feel the stress. I feel the stress. I still got to work on my taxes, right? So when those social engineering comes in and say, hey, we need X, Y, Z, we can't do our taxes without this. Can you click this link and enter this data? Social engineering is one of the number one entry vectors that we'll see. And because you have that constraint deadline, which is that it's a pre-built call to action, you now have a way by which you can social engineer yourself into that environment. So social engineering allows them to get in. Phishing, obviously, we're seeing phishing not only from mobile, but we're seeing email-based phishing. Anything that adversary can do to start to harvest those credentials is going to be very important. And ultimately, it's really taking that data that you get from social engineering and phishing and then actionizing it. Right now, when we have tax season, I'm not a CPA or an accountant. I'm not sure what the proper tax season is, but I would imagine it's probably from January 1st to April 15th, right? That tax season is where you're going to see that social engineering accelerate. Now, you may say, oh, well, post-tax season, I'm fine. That's a false sense of security, because essentially what's happened is maybe they'll start to harvest that information during that tax season from the social engineering and the phishing, and then you'll have the monetization after. So you might make it through tax season and assume, well, we didn't have any form of ransomware campaign. I didn't have any negative impacts, but you might not find yourself in a portfolio that then gets monetized or sold off. And that problem could then manifest 3, 4, 5, maybe even a year later. We don't know. That's the problem with this. Once you get those credentials and they're compromised, you start to have to build out that practice that not only you can gain that visibility, but you need to start to get the trust that after tax season or after those potential, imminent campaign events, that we're going to have that security if something monetizes at an undetermined period of time. We need to be able to block those manifestations, and we need to have that peace of mind that we're not going to have a crippling attack that takes down our infrastructure. So to clearly answer it, social engineering, phishing, persistence methods, it's all kind of centered around that I generally see, at least.
Yeah, and we're seeing the same thing. Big game phishing is or hunting, should I say, is where they're using public information that's available, whether it's your website, your Facebook, LinkedIn, public available information. Now they know who you are and what you're doing, and then they use that to leverage that to use social engineering tactics through email, et cetera, to get you to click on something, to open something, and then the fun begins, shall we say? And it's scary. Obviously, they're getting really targeted. They're not just back in the day. They used to just throw blast an email out to 10,000 people and hope they get one person to click. Now they're tricking you and saying, I'm a client of yours, or I want to be a client of yours. And they know who you are. They know your accounting firm. And now they're trying to trick your folks. And because of the tax season, great point, which is that during tax season, people are under pressure. They're working fast. They're not, they may just be clicking on something without really doing the critical thinking.
I mean, think about it right now, right? Pick up your phone. You probably have a text or something from a number that you're not aware. It said, hey, I got your contacts. I need to fill out my tax, or I have an imminent tax, event that I need to take care of. Would you mind following this link and looking at the data? Now, if you're aware of it, you're like, hey, I'm not falling for that one,
Right.
A lot of people will click that. There's a lot of reasons they'll end up clicking those things. So it creates that impetus, especially, everybody gets this at work where it starts to go and the intensity ratchets up. And now we're going 110%. The engine's going to fail if we maintain this speed for too long. You get that text. Okay, well, there's another client. Click. That's all you need. It's that one point. It's taking that stress. It's taking that action item. And it's creating these conditions by which your normal mental faculties are not firing on all cylinders. So you're going to make human errors. That's the nature of the game. Bank on the human errors, take advantage of those exploits, and then monetize it at a later period of time.
What do you say to the client that says, I'm too small to get hit?
I would say if you're a CPA or if you're collecting PII data, you're not too small to be hit, because there's no one that's too small. Once you build up these portfolios, they're entire script kiddie campaigns that it doesn't matter if you're the one-man band or the one-woman band, or if you're the elite CPA firm for all the best businesses in your region. We're building up those portfolios, because what happens is just having that subset of data and then building it within that larger big game hunting and then monetizing it later. It's no longer about just that one-off hit. It's about getting the bulk amount of customers associated with that portfolio. So I don't think it's fair to assume that you're going to hide simply because of the size of your nature. I think if you're dealing with that type of sensitive data and you are going to be that financial instrument vector, you should automatically assume I have the equal risk as the big campaigns. And something else to be said, it's probably easier to target smaller firms because they don't have those robust SOCs. They generally don't have these big teams. They don't have the financial investment. Adversaries know that the smaller firms aren't thinking about cybersecurity. If I was to potentially, in an entirely theoretical world, take action on that, I would say, okay, well, these individuals typically aren't investing as heavy. It may be easier for me to go in and exploit it and then create that campaign. So it's, again, barrier to entry is probably way lower to hit small firms.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And this is a loaded question here. What's the impact if you get hit, whether you're small, medium, or large? I mean, I'm sure you've heard these war stories, and we're going to dig a little deeper into that later. But what's the impact of the firm if they get hit by cyber attack?
Yeah, I mean, definitely loaded question. So thanks for the heads up on that, Kurt. It's hard to say, right? There's a lot of variables on that. The impact can be devastating, obviously. Here's what I'll say in an agnostic fashion. What's the impact? I'll put it in your court. If you're listening to this is balls in your court. What do you think the impact would be if all of your client data now got ransomed and then locked up on an external server? Let's put that in real terms. You can't log into your main machine. All your clients' data, including all their tax returns, all their social security number, all their PIA is encrypted. And you now need to pay a nebulous actor based out of some unknown location, some X amount of crypto in order to unlock it. What do you think the implications of that would be? What would the implications be if that lockup happened on April 14th and you decided to not file for 100 businesses you're managing? These are things you should start to think about because the implications are quite simply this. Your systems will go down and you won't have access. So whatever business processes you're trying to go into flight, it stops right there. And you now need to grease the wheels with some form of cryptocurrency. And who knows if you're going to get it after that. I don't know the implications of what happens if you don't file. Are you going to go file like 300 extensions because your machine got locked up? How would you even file 300 extensions? Maybe that's easy, but you can start to think of the implications. What's going to happen is as follows. PII data locked, it's encrypted, it's on another country, and your business stops until you take care of that situation.
And I've even heard now they're extorting on top of that. So not only do they want you to pay the Bitcoin to decrypt your data, or they're not only going to keep your data locked up, but they're also going to share all that information in your company's name online to the public, and now you've destroyed your reputation. So it's even gone to another level of extortion. It's a game over for your business, but now they're going to extort you on top of that and embarrass your name, your company's reputation. If you're a business that's been around for 20, 30, 50 years, are they going to want to do business with you afterwards because you just publicly shared inadvertently all your client data? So it's a very scary prospect for any business owner. And I would even say even the employees need to think about this. If you are on a team that is working for a company, and you should be stressing the importance of this because this is also your job that's on the line. If your employer gets hit by a malware attack and they can no longer proceed forward and bring in revenue, what is going to happen to the business? They're probably going to go under. They're going to leave, drop all their team members, and now everybody's looking for a job. So it's really a business killer. So
I'm 100% on board with you on that. And sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good.
The other thing I'll say, just as a final Parthian shot on that, not only is it a business killer, but think about what CPAs are doing. You're delivering an outcome. Your outcome is legally compliant tax solutions, correct?
Yes.
That outcome isn't delivered, and now you've shot the reputation, the company's out. There's nothing there. That's why you have to start to think of security, right? What's the outcome of security? Security is guaranteeing that you can continue your mission of providing legally compliant tax solutions. If you're compromising that at the beginning, it doesn't matter how good your practice is. It doesn't matter that you've been in business for 30 years. You need to have that outcome of keeping that data secure, because if that foundation's there, you're building a house of cards on sand and it's windy at the beach.
Yeah, and I just only think of the possible legal ramifications or lawsuits if you miss deadlines on behalf of your client, whether it's a company or an individual, they miss their deadline because you weren't able to do the deadline. Now you have even additional possible lawsuits coming in behind that because you failed to deliver, and they're getting penalized by the IRS. So,
yeah, if
scary
there's
stuff. All right.
Yeah, one person in the world I don't want to mess with is the IRS.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Cameron, and thank you, CrowdStrike, for sharing your experience and expertise on this topic. And for those who are still with us, thank you for joining us today. We hope you learned something new and you could take back to your firm and apply and help improve your firm's security posture. And if you want to get more tips and best practices from the experts, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. Cheers.